Did life breathe on Mars before Earth? Did life begin in the valleys of Mars before it started on Earth? The life that we see thriving on Earth today once migrated here from Mars in the past. And over time, due to the changes that occurred, we lost the memories of our past, and here, life began to write its story from the very foundation. These are not just a few questions, but for scientists engaged in the search for astronomy and extraterrestrial life, these are questions of life and death. For many centuries, ever since humans became aware of space and other planets, scientists have been engaged in researching these subjects. In such a situation, these are not just a few simple questions, but rather much more complex and difficult matters of research. Look, we all know that science is the name of that bird, which tells us and explains the reasons behind any event and the effects that result from it. Holding on to this very aspect of science, a few decades ago, Sir Isaac Newton presented the theory of gravity to the world. Copernicus broke people's misconceptions and made it clear that the Earth is not flat but round, and it is not the center of the universe, but it is a planet itself which revolves around the sun. Later, Galileo observed space with his own telescope and discovered that just like Earth, there are several other planets revolving around the sun. So we were already aware of the existence of these planets, but this time we were able to see them with our own eyes. By the 20th century, humans' desire to know about the world beyond the clouds became even stronger. And we started talking about topics beyond stars and planets like aliens and exoplanets. Of course, all this was quite strange and new in those times. No one really understood much about it. And how could they have understood? After all these things were just the result of some imaginations and human minds in those times. But today, when we have this modern technology available to us, today, when we know very well that in this infinite universe, life cannot be limited only to Earth. In any case, life could exist on many other planets and moons besides Earth. In such a situation, our eyes often turn towards Mars, the fourth planet in the solar system. After all, besides Mars, which other planet in the solar system can provide a suitable or challenging environment for life to breathe? But today, we are going to give you a completely different perspective on how to look at Martian life. Because today, we will explore the possibility that points to the fact that even today, the life you see on Earth may actually in the past was displaced from Mars a long time ago and came here to Earth. Whenever we talk about life beyond Earth, our eyes always turn to Mars. The fourth planet of the solar system, which appears bright red with an atmosphere that is extremely cold and freezing. Can it help support life? That's the answer we're looking for. This search has compelled scientists to look deep inside this planet over the past 5 decades. We have carried out countless missions to Mars so far, through which we have continued to search for possibilities related to its history and future. In the days of the past, our solar system was witnessing many changes. On one hand, Mars lost its atmosphere and saw the complete destruction of the water present there, while on the other hand, certain coincidences on Earth led to the emergence of life here. This was a very strange era. On one hand, life was standing at the brink of extinction, while on the other hand, on another planet, life was on the verge of being born. This was a time when one life was standing at its end, while another life was also on the verge of ending. It was very strange where there was an edge. Even though today we can't even imagine life on the surface of Mars, in history this was once a reality. Our studies and research so far make it clear that something happened in the past that destroyed life on Mars forever. Radiation and ultraviolet photon particles stormed until then. It was a terrifying solar storm that scorched everything in its path. When these charged particles of plasma from the sun collided with Mars's outer layer, that is, its atmosphere, they penetrated deep inside. Afterward, the atmosphere was badly damaged. The atmosphere of Mars became completely filled with holes. This caused a sudden shift in Mars's atmospheric dynamics, with pressure escaping from the surface into space. As a result, there was an immense change in the temperature of the entire planet. Eventually, the result of this event was that all the heat and liquid water on the surface of Mars was destroyed. Meanwhile, there is also a strong possibility that the organisms connected to water perished at that very moment. According to our understanding, life first originated in the rivers and lakes that flowed on ancient Mars, just like it happened around 3.7 billion years ago. Here on Earth, the earliest life forms were born. If we look at the timeline of life on Mars and Earth side by side, we'll find that in reality, the emergence of life on Earth occurred when life on Mars was nearly extinct, either by coincidence or due to some specific reason. But the time of birth and death of life on both these planets is almost the same. The sequential occurrence of these two events in an order cannot be just a coincidence. When scientists kept this thought in mind and continued their research, they studied Mars. With the help of the Curiosity rover stationed on the surface, they found organic molecules in a 3 billion-year-old rock which was a sedimentary rock. Even before this, Curiosity had detected traces of methane on Mars. Scientists have turned the suspicion of the existence of life on Mars into a certainty, especially regarding Mars. Gale Crater is the place where ancient life and some short carbon chains like propane and butane were continuously present. Additionally, it is also noteworthy that the places where these organic compounds have been found also have the presence of sulfur in the nearby soil. This also indicates that millions of years ago, cellular organisms similar to humans, meaning the origin of humans, also took place. This somewhat matches the story that we told you at the beginning of this video. It sounds quite strange and shocking to hear that microbial life forms traveled from Mars and reached Earth. I mean, how is that even possible? Traveling all the way from Mars, covering such vast distances in space, and then arriving here on Earth. I mean, just understanding how they could survive after arriving at their new home is astonishing. In fact, scientists still don't have a logical answer to this question. All we have are hypotheses that try to explain it. According to some of these, a divine messenger called Anunnaki came to Earth from Mars, who gave birth to their own offspring, and they later emerged in the form of humans, claimed their right over the entire Earth, and this is how humans were created. Therefore, this theory seems to be nothing more than a fictional story by a writer. Alternatively, there's the meteorite theory. According to this, the meteorites coming from Mars to Earth contained not only water and other minerals, but also microbial forms of life. When a meteorite passes through Earth's atmosphere, when they fell on the surface here, within a few hundred years, they mixed with the soil of this place. As a result, the form of life they were hiding within themselves spread across the surface of the Earth. Here, by coincidence, such an environment was created that life flourished, and that's how we got to see this form of the Earth. Billions of years ago, when the first ray emerged from the sun, when the winds blowing over the flowing water on Mars passed through trees and forests and moved towards the sky, this red planet would have looked something like this. We know that at that time, Mars was suitable for life, which today has become completely barren and cold. Maybe life once breathed there? But this thought also gives rise to some important questions. What suddenly happened to this planet? What exactly happened? What is the connection between life and a planet like Mars? And if there really was life here at some point, then where are its remains now? A recent study has found that Mars' own biosphere became the cause of extinction for life there. And life itself became its own biggest enemy. It put itself in danger, which is why Mars is in its current condition today. The findings have also identified some regions on Mars where life might have once existed, including the Jezero crater, where National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Perseverance rover is currently searching for signs of life on Mars. The study has also indicated one more thing. If there is a greatest enemy of life in this universe, then it is life itself, and this applies to us humans as well. Researchers recreated Mars as it was about 4 billion years ago. They studied the climate, terrain, models, biosphere, and ecosystem there. This revealed that there was a time when the number of methane-producing microorganisms on Mars was very high. They used to live a few centimeters below the soil of this red planet, protected by the soil above them. But those microbes kept consuming the hydrogen and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But they didn't know that their food above the ground was about to create a huge problem for them. Mars slowly froze, trapping the microbes beneath its surface. The place where they were thriving has now become their grave. It appeared in Nature Astronomy. This study shows that the interchange of hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane reduced greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And this reaction triggered a global cooling, which led to researchers say that life in ideal planetary conditions is actually the most dangerous situation. You could say that it becomes its own enemy. But this thing is revealed gradually, and by then it might already be too late. The postdoctoral fellow from Sorbonne University who led this study says that this self-destructive tendency is what prevents life from spreading on a large scale in this universe. There are two hypotheses that are quite popular regarding the existence of life. In 1965, there was an ecologist and chemist working at National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, whose name was James Lovelock. He said that certain chemical compounds in a planet's atmosphere act as a biosignature. If these can be detected, it can confirm the presence of life on that planet. For example, on our planet Earth, methane and oxygen exist, where methane is produced by bacteria called methanogens and oxygen comes from photosynthetic organisms. Both of these together form a biosignature, as each gas in its ambient atmosphere can eliminate the other organism. Both of these complement each other's absence and create a balanced ecosystem. This very work of Lovelock has become the foundation today of the scientific research being done for alien life. And from this, a hypothesis emerged called the Gaia hypothesis, which Lovelock developed together with biologist Lynn Margulis. This hypothesis, which came in the 1970s, was named after the Greek mythology goddess Mother Earth. It stated that life is self-sustaining, which means that life can regulate itself. For example, numerous organisms on Earth collectively interact with each other and with their surrounding environment in this way. This maintains the habitability of the environment. When carbon dioxide increases in the environment, it also raises the global temperature. But for the same reason, plants get a boost, which increases their growth even more. As a result, they absorb more and more carbon dioxide, which brings the planet back to a cooler state. So in this way, the hypothesis says that life somehow finds a way to survive and it is self-regulating, but the other hypothesis is much scarier than this. In 2009, University of Washington paleontologist Peter Ward presented an idea that was completely opposite to the Gaia hypothesis. Ward says that on a planetary scale, life is not self-regulating. In fact, it is self-destructive. And because of its actions, it creates conditions that lead to its own extinction. In complete contrast to the Gaia hypothesis, Ward named his idea after another figure from Greek mythology. Medea was a mother who killed her own children. The Medea hypothesis says that life ultimately destroys its own existence. To support this idea, Ward cites several mass extinctions that have occurred on Earth in the past. This suggests that life inherits a property similar to being self-destructive. About 2 billion years ago, the Great Oxidation event occurred. Because of its self-destructive nature, synthetic cyanobacteria pumped a huge amount of oxygen into Earth's atmosphere, which wiped out the domestic life forms of that time, methanogens and other anaerobic organisms. Because for them, oxygen was toxic, it was poison. If you look at the history of Earth, you'll find several periods where the greatest enemy of life was none other than life itself. And White believes that the same thing must have happened on Mars as well. If we look at Earth, oxygen is crucial for biological diversification, which allowed multicellular ancestors to emerge here. Which makes us feel that both these hypotheses are a matter of Gaia and Medea perspectives. Until we find life on another planet, we'll have to solve this question with our own understanding. Like the theoretical study done by Boris, Kave is a research scientist at the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute. He says that these ideas expand the scope of our thinking, the way we look at life, the biosphere and habitability. But he also says that in this idea, only them were considered who alter the planet on a large scale. But he also says that in this idea, only those who alter the planet on a large scale were considered. There is a complexity in major events like the Great Oxidation event, and that is, both methanogens and cyanobacteria had conflicting influences on each other. Both were highly dependent on each other. It was greater than what would occur with only methanogens present. This study highlighted how a complex ecosystem like the one on early Earth is essential to cope with sudden environmental changes. This also helps us understand that if life is moving towards complexity, if diversity is increasing in the biosphere, then no biosphere can move towards a median fate, so its end won't match the median hypothesis, which means that complex and diverse life can prevent itself from being self-destructive. Ward says that when life evolves on a planet, the only way for it to survive is for intelligence to evolve within that life, so that they can search for resources to improve their lives and eliminate the chances of their premature end. However, Boris studied ancient Mars. He did not consider the possibility of methanogens currently present on Mars. Who knows, this study might have been recently discovered on Mars. It is possible that this study could somehow explain the reservoirs of methane gas found on Mars. However, it is also possible that the release of methane gas was due to some lifeless geophysical activity. But the study done on ancient Mars identifies some places that remained free from ice throughout much of the planet's history, while a global glaciation on Mars had completely covered the surface with ice. But what was so special about those places that they remained free from ice? One of those places is the Jezero crater. Today, the Perseverance rover is searching for biosignatures on Mars at that very place. There is also a possibility that the remains of the early methanogens are buried much deeper beneath the surface of Mars, where the rover cannot reach. The study also mentions two other sites. First is Hellas Planitia, second is Acidis Planitia. There is a possibility of signs of life beneath the surface of these regions. This study could serve as a reference point for our future Mars missions. Halaki Boris also says about his study that his work is hypothetical. Just because Mars was once habitable, it doesn't necessarily mean that life actually existed there. Now, whether methanogens ever existed on Mars or not, this study illustrates how life creates its own future conditions, so it can find its place in the biosphere. And this concept applies to every civilization, every life in this universe. Even single-celled organisms have this power. Even single-celled organisms have the power to turn a habitable planet into hell. And we humans have technological advancement which will determine the path of our lives and all life on Earth. We often hear that the health of our planet Earth is getting worse day by day. Glaciers keep melting as temperatures rise. Our cities are getting covered under a blanket of smog caused by pollution. Due to rising water levels, cities are getting submerged, and in some places, it has even stopped raining. As a result, droughts are occurring due to our human actions. Because of these changes, the health of the Earth is declining. In such a situation, it wouldn't be wrong to say that soon this planet won't be suitable for us to live on. There will be some terrifying changes here that will force us to look for shelters somewhere else in this infinite universe. And when it comes to home after Earth, the first thought that comes to our mind is Mars. And why shouldn't it? Based on what we know, Mars is the top contender for this spot. It resembles our Earth in many ways. However, this fact cannot be ignored either. Sometimes rovers observe it from the sky and sometimes they dig into its surface. To be honest, this human fascination with Mars is not without reason, because Mars is the key to our destiny. Mars is the reality of our future. Therefore, on the path to reaching Mars and then settling there, many difficulties and challenges are waiting for us. So, would you want to face these challenges? Would you not want to embark on this journey to the future of Mars? M's your shower, of course, that's why we, meaning the documentary library. Today we are going on this trip to Mars where all of us together will go to Mars. We'll settle there, farm and live happily, so let's go. By the way, keep in mind that this trip is going to be one way only, so passengers, please pack all your belongings carefully, because on this journey, there is no return. I am extremely excited for this endeavor. Currently, Elon Musk's company, SpaceX, and the American Space Agency, National Aeronautics and Space Administration are both working together to prepare for the Mars colonizing mission. But what do they matter to us? We're in our own dream world, where we are boarding our spacecraft and entering the atmosphere of Mars. Now, keep one thing in mind here. We are creating this simulation keeping in mind all the discoveries made up to today. Brother, if I missed anything, please forgive me. Finally passing through Mars's atmosphere. Now we have arrived. On its surface, where only desolation is visible, it looks like a graveyard. There is nothing else worth seeing on this planet. Let's start our work from here now. First of all, we need to build some shelters here where we can stay, which can protect us from the icy winds and dust storms on Mars. To do the work inside the four walls of these shelters, we will have to rely on these machines and robots. According to National Aeronautics and Space Administration's plan, most of these machines will be sent there even before the Martian crew lands, so that all these tasks can be carried out immediately. During this time, these special types of machines will develop a unique kind of hybrid silicon from Martian soil, which will be used to build these shelters. By the way, the best thing here is that for now, most of the work on Mars will be carried out by our robots. These amazing creations, developed through a powerful combination of machine learning and artificial intelligence, will prove to be very effective in establishing cities on Mars. They will be equipped with all those sensors that will help them work better, faster, and with greater precision. After that, in a very short time, we will have plenty of homes ready for us. Next, high-pressure zones will be set up in these shelters and the needed items to keep them running will be provided. To generate electricity, a large number of solar panels will also be installed on Mars, which will convert sunlight into electricity and charge our machines. Inside these Martian shelters, astronauts can move freely without spacesuits or protective gear. Therefore, as soon as they step outside, they will need a special kind of bodysuit. This will provide a steady oxygen supply and maintain air pressure on their bodies. Now, if our Martians want to roam around on Mars, they'll need a vehicle. But after a few weeks, they'll have to get started on a big mission. Actually, when they set off from Earth towards Mars, they took a lot of food with them, which is now about to run out. After the long 8-month journey and landing on Mars, a lot of food has already been used up, and the remaining food can only keep us alive for a few months. This is where the challenge of survival begins. Now, it's not like these Mars travelers are carrying out these big missions on Mars without any assistance. Pals, the truth is, whether it's National Aeronautics and Space Administration SpaceX or any other agency hosting these missions, they are fully dedicated to assisting these astronauts. The control center on the ground is constantly monitoring the movements of these astronauts. The crew present on Mars is also maintaining constant communication. Everything is being monitored, from the robot's batteries to the cabin's pressure, every single detail. And with regular intervals, rockets loaded with machines and robots are also being sent there to build a human settlement, which are proving to be very effective in landing on Mars and building up this infrastructure. Anyway, now it's time to focus on a very important mission. This mission is nothing else but farming on Mars. Well, this might sound a bit childish, but it's actually a reality of the future, and this is exactly what is about to happen. Our scientists say these Martians will be very intelligent in their work. They will have complete knowledge from engineering to botany, and with the help of that knowledge, they are working to accomplish their mission. In this sequence, first of all, these greenhouses will be built here. Actually, these will be special types of vertical farms. In the video, we explain the full step-by-step plan for farming in Martian shelters. But for now, just understand that these early Mars travelers have also learned to grow vegetables, or you could say, food on Mars by themselves. Monsieur Shore, now a question must have popped up in your mind, and that is, where will the water for farming or even for humans to drink normally come from there? Water is necessary, right? Without it, it's impossible to even imagine life. The simple answer is the water synthesis process. Because of this, they will infuse the hydrogen and oxygen gases stored in the fuel tanks with each other to make water. The idea of transporting water from Earth to Mars is great, but it's not feasible. On the other hand, melting the ice caps present on Mars to make water is quite tough, because it's pretty clear that we're not going to conduct these expeditions in the polar regions. In such a situation, this is the only way and sustainable option left for us. Now we have water, a roof over our heads, plenty of Martian food to eat, and overall everything is going pretty well. But is this enough to settle humans on Mars, to colonize Mars? Do we need to do something even bigger and more exciting than this there? If yes, then what? Mars has always been a subject of exploration for humans. The bright red color of this red sphere did scare us, but its mysterious appearance inspired us to uncover the secrets buried within it. That's why we've had our eyes set on Mars for many centuries. Mars has also given us many moments in the past when we experienced both wonder and curiosity at the same time. Today, humans see Mars as their future. Life struggling to survive on Earth sees its next destination on Mars. In such a situation, it is very important to know how humans will actually settle on Mars. After all, how will we humans populate this barren land and establish our settlements here? Stay tuned to learn about terraforming and colonization concepts. So hello friends, you are watching Rahasti Television. Let's get started and watch this video till the very end. Mars, which is the destination of our dreams today, is going to become the reality of tomorrow. So let's take a closer look at this barren Mars. This planet, about 140 million miles from Earth, is the fourth from the Sun. This is a transitional planet because after this, the gas planets begin. Mars is a solid planet. Its surface is mostly made up of iron, nickel, and sulfur. That's why its color is deep red, although the temperature of its surface is quite low, contrary to its color. The average surface temperature of Mars remains minus 63 degrees Celsius, and in the polar regions, this temperature drops to as low as minus 140 degrees Celsius. There are also ice caps of frozen water and gases present at its poles. Speaking of its atmosphere, Mars is a planet with an atmosphere, but its atmosphere is less than 1% as dense as Earth's. And that's why you don't feel any air pressure on its surface. Mars's atmosphere is 95.3% carbon dioxide, 2.6% nitrogen, with the remaining 0.1% made up of gases like oxygen and argon. As far as the presence of water on Mars is concerned, scientists are still uncertain about it. It must have provided a favorable environment, whether it was the flowing water on its surface or the oxygen present in the air here. The form of life we see on Earth today might have once existed on Mars as well. All those conditions, all those factors that provide a favorable environment for life to breathe might have already existed on Mars in the past. The life that perished here. We can revive it once again, and to do that, we will have to go through a long and extensive process. In this process, from increasing the temperature on Mars to rebuilding its atmosphere, all major changes will have to be brought about artificially. Of course, this will not be easy for us at all. We will need vast money, resources, and technology for this. And perhaps even more than that, we will need a visionary person who can help make this dream a reality. Many other players are also working day and night to reach this milestone, but Musk and his SpaceX are far ahead of all of them in this race. SpaceX practically has plans to go to Mars. They have the resources needed to send humans to Mars along with that. SpaceX has a complete plan to settle people there before we come to SpaceX's Martian colonization and terraforming plan. Let's take a look at some important details of this trip. The minimum distance between Earth and Mars is 33.9 million miles. Both planets revolve around the Sun in an elliptical orbit. Because of this, the distance between them keeps decreasing and increasing. Every 2.5 years, there comes a time when these two planets are at their shortest distance from each other. At such a time, it's a golden opportunity to send any spacecraft to Mars. This 3 to 8 day launch window gives us convenient accessibility to Mars. Spacecraft launched during this period reach Mars's orbit using the least amount of time and fuel. This journey takes about 8 months. After leaving Earth's orbit, the spacecraft will travel in deep space for the next 250 days. Then, one day, the view of the red planet will appear from the window of that rocket. And in the next 1.5 hours, this mission will go through its toughest phase. This is the landing sequence. SpaceX's Starship will make a vertical landing like this, and from here, the battle for survival begins. Actually, in this fleet of Starship, there will be a team of the first Martian settlers. These will be the first humans who will dedicate their lives to making Mars habitable for humans. It's possible that their journey to Mars will be one way. That means they may never be able to return to Earth, or they might get a chance to come back after many years. Well, whatever their fate may be. But here they will be fully prepared to face the upcoming challenges. They first need air in this process. Along with that, these special types of shelters will also have some unique greenhouses where farming will be done. Yes, this human civilization that has gone to settle on Mars will have to become completely self-sufficient. First, arrangements for their own food will be made, and then their daily needs will be taken care of. Scientists have already started doing this. Yes, scientists have created an environment here on Earth that is similar to what we will find on Mars. In these same conditions, there are some green chambers where heat, light, and water are all in a controlled and limited environment. As a result of this experiment, scientists found very well-grown vegetables. They made fertilizer from their waste for potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, wheat, and grass. Now, since Martian soil contains all the elements except nitrogen that are needed to grow crops on Mars, but here is a good news, and that is human waste asked for arranging water here. That method is also very simple. Actually, the oxygen and hydrogen that we have been using as jet fuel until now will now be used to make water for us. How again? Here, we'll use simple chemistry. We know that when both hydrogen and oxygen gases are infused together, as a result, we get water, that is H2O. So, in this way, we will arrange water in the initial stage, but when we have to do this on a larger scale. By the time we reach this stage of Martian habitation, we will have developed so much that we will be completely ready to launch our mega project here. Yes, we are talking about terraforming, a mission that will prove to be revolutionary. In this phase, a massive mission will be carried out on Mars. Very large glass panels will be installed here. These are extremely large glass panels. Sunlight toward Mars' atmosphere. When Refall lost its magnetosphere, it destroyed its atmosphere in one blow. Mars' atmosphere is now very thin and light. That's why it is not effective at retaining the heat it receives from the sun. But we humans will have started living on Mars by building our own separate permanent settlements all over the planet. During this time, the first Martian settlers will have either died or become so old that they returned to Earth. For now, here are the second and third ones. In the same way, heating up Mars, healing its environment, and even making Mars active. After the birth of the water cycle, the circulation of oxygen would have also started in the suffocating atmosphere here. Much like Earth, they still can't move freely on the surface of Mars. They would still have to wear pressurized suits. And for oxygen as well, we would still be dependent on our artificial systems. By then, all this will be behind. Because the rapid changes happening on Mars will bring about a revolution there, and life there will become similar to what it is here on Earth. Prosperous and easy.